The Sach zu sagen is, I'm speaking English there's a lot to say, and one would think that if you have a daughter and she's so sick such a long time, it's one of the most schwerste machlas, and I went away and I came back and I went away, came back again. And the doctors, every time they talk to you, the amount of hope that they have is getting less and less. And then they come and they tell you that they don't have a path out of the woods. And you're going day after day, one would think that such a person would be prepared for what to say. Enough time to be prepared. I'm not prepared at all. Didn't start 7:20 this morning. And I knew that Achai v'Reyai in Gedavant. I knew that Noshim Tzidkonius was saying Tillim non-stop. Didn't stop. I knew yesterday it was Chazukim, Shmuel Saloshin. There was people all over the United States, in Mechazik. There was people, they were off the derech, they started to keep Shabbos. I wasn't prepared. I was not prepared. I was prepared to take her home from the hospital. It would Meuchel sein. I was once walking in the halls of the hospital, Johns Hopkins. A guy came over to me. I had come to visit, and he saw my wife was there weeks on end, and pulled me to the side, and he says, "Do me a favor." He says, "I know I'm not going to understand. I will not understand. But please, give me something. Give me something. How do you do it? Give me epis. Evil epis. See, there's a secret." I couldn't talk to him. There's nothing to say. A goy, was sagt man zu a goy? You could tell a goy, at so tam palo, ich hol drach auf mishpat. Ey lemuna. Ein Ovel Tzadik wie Yoshahu. Ein Goy kann das verstehen. Wir können das sagen zu Goy. Wir können sagen zu Goy, Ashreinu, Matoiv Chalkeinu, Manoim Garaleinu, Mayofe Yushaseinu. So we come together, I look around this room, Be'emes, I say, it's not a tzibah, such a oilam. There's Noshim and there's other parts of the building. Everyone's here. In fact, a klein Meidele, a member of Klal Yisrael. Das kommt sagen für Goy, what unser Klal Yisrael is. The Chesed, the Statfus, the Nesiba Oil. The Bein Shloilem has Cheshbainis, Agabi Cheshbainis, wir sind kleine, we're small, menschlich. We don't begin to have any type of understanding. But there's things that we see, the Baruch Shalom gave us, that we see with our eyes. There's different things that we see. So one of the main things that we see is that from such matzavim comes out such a chesed from Klal Yisrael. The Baruch Shalom is milking out the chesed from Klal Yisrael. He's pulling it out from Klal Yisrael. All the yechidim, the organizations, and it's all coming out from these matzavim. That's for the Klal. Für uns allein, die Mishpacha. So Tom Paulo, ich hol drach auf Mishpat. We feel, so wie steht bei Vidui Meiser, alle fragen, why is it a Vidui Meiser? Der Yid sagt, chalti beini mimenu, sati menu meis. Wo liegt der Vidui? Alle fragen, where's the Vidui von der Meiser? Sagt der Sepono, der Vidui is, Biarti ya koidesh min abayis. Yeah, the Yid had a bchor, a kahuna, gehat in his bayis, and he has to give the trumas and maitus to the kohen. So he lost in his house, he went a koidesh, and he had the bayis. That's how I feel today. Biarti ya koidesh min abayis. Das sind so viele Meister. Aber was eine Gehe zu das Mädele, das Nefesh, Noki, Nikia, the Tzaddik, we look at her, she had a beautiful life. So the Vetter bleibt gesagt, Margolius, zu Häuser biodeinu. Wir haben gehabt am Margolius. Does anyone ask, if someone gives you a diamond and he says you can have this diamond, you can hold on to the most precious diamond in the world, and you can have it for a year, does someone say, why not 2 years? And if you can have it for 2 years, does someone ask why you can't have it for 3 years? We had a diamond, we had a Margolius, a precious gem, a jewel, a treasure that we had. 7.5 years. We're thankful to the Beina Shalom. We're danken, we're loiben the Eibishter. Ashreinu shezachinu that we had this. Malky Brindle, you could say, looking at her and living with her, we lived with her, my Rebbetzin and I, with much closer than a person lives with a normal child. We lived, my Rebbetzin slept with her in Mamish Tzomud. This morning she was nifter in my wife's hands. So my wife told a Yidina, my wife said to her non-to friend, she said, you know that my Malky Brindle, she was nifter in my hands. So a friend said to her, is that a chiddush? You're holding her for 6 years in your hand. Where else would she be nifter? So it's azar nontkeit. We're able to see her. Parents were often distracted. Most parents, before this Maisa, distracted. We don't have time. Many parents, B'nai Aliyah, we have our Zachen. We don't see our children. We don't see them. We're not so known to them. But unser Malky Brindle, we lived with her. We saw her. We saw her guf. We saw her nefesh. We saw her teicha. We know what this maidel is given. A boy say, be'emes, if I be, as I've gesagt, ich bin nicht zu great. Could talk and talk about her. It's 7.5 years, aber it's a gepackte Jahren. It's fully Jahren. How much she did, how much hashpah she had, how much teichen was in her. When she was born, it was Friday night, and I went to the hospital in NYU. And it's Friday night, and I found that I had a Tillim, so we genommen, sagen Tillim. I remember my other children doing that. So it was very ruhig. It was a Friday night. I was by my father, mein gesund, my mother, and I started to say the Yom of Tillim, and it started from the Yom HaShabbos. I opened up a Tillim. I wanted to understand the bekannten Tillim that I became Heint. And the Yom HaShabbos, so went through the whole Yom, and got to the last pasuk, the last pasuk from Tillim, Koil HaNeshama to Hallel, Ko Hallelujah. She was born. That's when she was born, by that pasuk. And it was a Zah Bahola. The doctor wasn't ready. Sorry, the doctor wasn't ready. That's when she was born. Exact them pasuk. And the Maise, a whole life, is given bekipshutoi. Is given a half at Eibishter. Al kol neshima tahal ka. Wie the Chazal sagen, für jede Atem, every breath that she took, I love you, Hashem. Every breath she thanked. For every breath she praised the Eibishter. She looked at it, the way she said Asher Yotzar. She came out, it's a begreifen, not to explain. Everything was thanking, Kol Neshima Tahal Ka. This Shmini Atzeres, you might have already said it over, just Moisev Zayin. I took her into the emergency room, and she knew good and well by now, by this year, Ziveis, what she knows what it means when she got a fever and it was time to go into the hospital. It wasn't always. Many times it was a tremendous letdown. Suddenly you get a fever. It can be any time. It can be any moment. That's the rule that I've gained in the hospital. It was like 6:30 this year. Sorry, Batavis. That's when she was laying in her bed and she was singing in her bed. And then my wife took her temperature. We took her into the hospital. That's when I drove there, and there was snow on the ground, and she started to sing on the way to the hospital. And she knew what it means. I have a fever. You go into the hospital, they poke her and they prick her, and it should be hospitalized. There's rules. You have to stay a few days. She knew good and well. She got that good verstand that she was singing on the way to the hospital. And it's me eingefallen. I said, Malky, maybe say the pasuk, L'shuascha kivisi Hashem. She says, I'm singing to Hashem. I'm singing. Already singing to Hashem. That's when she said these words. And when I came home, I heard Azach Heilige Werte. I went right back to my room. I just dropped them off by the hospital. And I had to write it down. I said, Azach Werte, I don't want to main Zoe. She didn't say. I wrote it down. I took a paper. I said, I'm coming back to the house. I'm writing down these Werte. And she said, I sing to Hashem. I thank Him for my life. Even though I would like it to be different. She said, I know He has a plan for me, the best possible plan. That's what she said. She's on her way into the emergency room. This was a shira, Al Kol Neshima Neshima Tahal Ka. Nothing could stop her from singing her shira. The whole Metzias is always constantly, was Dveikus B'Hashem, being it close to the Eibishter. Whether she cried to the Hashem, whether she would cry, Hashem, help me, oh Hashem. Or whether she sang shiras to Hashem. It was always Dveikus B'Hashem. Before an operation, she went in, I weiß already etliche Jahre that I'm saying a number, that she had over 50 operations. That's already from a few years ago that I'm saying this number. And she used to go into the operation, she machte eigene Minig. Before she came to the operation, I once took her in, and there's a whole crowd by operating room, the doctors, the nurses, the anesthesiologists, all running around. And she had a minig, she says, Krishma alamita with Malky HaGoyel before every operation. And this, that's not short. That's a Krishma for a few minutes it took. And so I asked them, I said, she wants to say a prayer over here. They wants to. So they said, yeah, you could say a prayer. She starts shaking her head. So I told them, I said, she wants quiet. She can't think. The operating room was quiet. 4 or 5 people were in there, doctors, nurses, everyone watched. She said, Shema Yisrael. Yet the mullah. At some point, I started telling, I chapped this, a ganze Meise. She didn't like you talk about her. So she ready, one time I came in with her, and I said to you, you're going to say Krishma. So my Rebbe said, no, she doesn't say anymore in the opera. She says before. She finished, I made an asik from it already. Said before. Is this Tisha B'Av, the whole point of her life was Dveikes B'Hashem. She lived with the Eibishter, given by ihr Metzius. I remember there was a girl that was sick. She walked into a corner, she started davening to the Eibishter. Mamish went into a winkel, started talking her own words. I was this past year Tisha B'Av, I was there in the hospital, and I was saying kindness in the room, and the doctors came in, and she had a give us an infection or something, and they wanted to look at her, and they're looking from here, and they're looking from there, come a few doctors at a time, and she like put her head in the pillow, and I saw from my angle that she's talking to herself. She's talking the whole time she's talking, while they're out examining her. And the doctors were saying, one of the words was, you have to be at least 12 days on this medicine. You have to be at least 12 days. And she was like, she was agitated, she's talking. And then the doctors walked out. So I didn't say anything. She looks at me, says, you know what I was doing? I was talking to Hashem. I was saying, Hashem, these doctors, they don't know anything. Only you can make me better. So I said, Malky, she was very touchy then. So I said, do you mind? I'm saying kinnis. I was saying kinnis a bit loud. I had to keep myself up. So do you mind that I'm saying kinnis in the room? She says, no, I like it. She likes it. Not leave. He had kinnis. That's what she liked. This year was given Yom Kippur in the house, and she had already, she was coming down with great infections, and she was laying on the couch, trying to feed her, she wasn't eating, and she was laying on the couch, a ganze Yom Kippur. She couldn't walk even to the kitchen. That's how schwach she was. She was laying on the couch in the dining room. Came the time for Nila, and the kids were coming home a lot to try to take care. So come in Nila Zeit. It came Nila, she got up off the couch. My wife says, where are you going? She says, I want to go to Nila. I want to go to shul. It's Nila. I says, you don't have strength. You can't go to Nila. She says, get me my slippers. She says, you can't walk to the kitchen. I want to go to Nila. No one was able to give sich a eitzah, but her tkifas. And my wife said, I'll take you. My girls are davening a shul near the house. Go to the shul near the house. She says, no, I want to go to yeshiva. I want to go to Besmedrash Gevaya with Tati davens. She walked herself up the hill. She stood outside the window. She had Krishma. She heard Avinu Malkeinu. Her neshama wanted to be there by the din, by the Gemar din. Sie ein Goyim Dino shel Adam, shel Befanav. Sie wollte stehen dort, und sie wollte stehen bei der din. Sag ihnen, ich bin da. Schau mit seiner din, she wanted to be there. Noch im Kippur, mamish the next day, machas Yom Kippurim, von der Heishata. I took her to the hospital right away in the operating in the clinic. Suddenly, mamish, she blew up a murdic infection in her eye, and we got admitted right away to the hospital. We were there for Sukkot, Sukkah, Johns Hopkins, Wendorton, Friedeke, patient. Zeiten von Tyre Shimshon Grumberger, Tyre Bacher, that he was there in the hospital, and his father, Paul Deutsch, Yosef Neuberger, the Paul Deutsch, a Chiddush, a sukkah in the hospital. Malky, she's a action. She wanted to go every time to the sukkah. She get lost. She come mit Steie, mit Choylem, Shamshayim, nothing doing. There's nothing to talk. She came down with her pole, with a wheelchair, with a ASIC to bring it into the sukkah. You have to wait in the elevator from the 11th floor down to the back. That's what those events. Ani kivas elikim li toiv. All she wanted was tzama lecha nafshi, kama lecha b'sari, dveikus b'Hashem. That was her tainug. Kinnis, I like it. That's what I like. Sukkah, kiddush, challah, that's what I like. Takim ivar mefursim. She has kama mamorim that she said, mechazik people, they go around. I get feedback. There's a Sachen that she said, Mamish, as a Chochmes, as a it's nicht Chochmes. It's not a Chochem. Sie weiß, was ist der Metzius. She knows the Metzius. Das ist der Chochme. Es ist nicht kein Chochem. Sie macht nicht kein Cheshboines. She knows the Metzius. Das ist der Chochme. Talks, mechazik people, lessons, the Maisa, that she was laying in her bed, and she took a phone that has a recorder. She started to sing. She sang mamish for some stomach. It was over 8 minutes on the time. The ganze shira was started about her, but she loves Hashem and she versteht the matzav and everything. It's klar by her. She has no shilas, and she over and over shira and shira and shira. So gave the recording, went up to a goyish doctor over there. And this doctor has shaykhs before in the music industry. And she asked my wife a few days later, do you mind? I have my friends that are composers, they write music. Could they write music accompaniment to this? Could they write music for the violin, for piano, musical? And they wrote it up, and they were doing it for themselves. They weren't doing it for me. They didn't mention mechazik zayin mensch. They did it for themselves. And this was what they were talking before, mentioned Shiva, that went around, they took it, they cut it down. And there's mamish, there's goyim gemurim, there's doctors, there's freie yidden, and they're passing it. One doctor today, he sent it around to all the doctors. It's called Oh Hashem. That's the song, Oh Hashem. And the Mekadosh Gven Shem Shemayim, they hear via Nefesh Noki cooked off the Welt. Das is Gven her whole life. She has a Nocha Shmuz that she used to always go over and over. She spoke about davening with tears. Ich weiß nicht, efter I told her mal, ich weiß nicht, kind efter be makrish, aber she used to hack us around. Davening means davening with tears. And let's since she had now a sign the last week that she was very, very sick. People would come in, but start crying. Because you see a maidel, it was possibly gerint von ihr Blut. So she went scheißes dam. People you couldn't shaykh. So she told the nurse, I don't want anyone crying in this room. So they went to the hospital stationery. They printed a sign. They have all kinds of, every room has a sign. This room you have to wash your hands. This room's a rabbi, no men can come in. Every room has its own sign. In her room, it says no crying allowed in this room. No crying allowed in this room. She didn't want. But I was saying Tillim. Dr. Tillim, darf sein mit Tränen. Tillim on Tränen, was ist Tillim? That she understood. She says, no, these tears you're allowed to have in my room. Those are under tears. You're not breaking the rule. When I saw Tzolbi Messiah and talk a little bit about the gewaltige tefillas and befrat by the ladies and the girls, there was mordike tefillas. I feel it's all connected. It's not the pshat. We're trying to. She told me the one time Malky comes to her head. The mordike zachen she would say out like, Wasn't shaykh to stay where she came. One time I said, Malky, you know how many people are davening for you? She said, Hashem's going to do what he wants. That's what she said. Hashem's going to do what he wants. Said in front of my whole family. Hashem does what he wants. But the pshat is the tefillas, that was all her v'mizet, what she turaif. This is all part. She was mahal the Eibishter. She was a kol neshima tahalka. And she was a goyrim. All the tefillas, nothing goes leibud. All the tefillas, she was goyrim tefillah, she was goyrim dveikus. And I had the guest Hana, when I heard, there was I heard of one of my daughter's friends. There was a girl that knew her pretty well. This girl, when she heard she was sick, she ran to Psakeva. She davened, she said, for over an hour. She davened. She said, I never felt such a thing in my life, such an experience. So I never felt it. Dveikus b'Hashem. She came through to Dveikus b'Hashem. That's all. Someone sent me last night. He sent me a message. He was by the Asifas Tillim. And he sent me a message. He's a good writer. And he said, they sent out a text to Baruch Yechiel, and everyone came. And he sent, I should really read it off, it's beautiful words. He said, I never saw so many